What happens when a pop icon's carefully crafted image collides with one of daytime television's most fearless personalities? When Gwen Stefani sits down with Joy Behar and the co-hosts of The View, what starts as a routine promotional interview quickly spirals into television gold that nobody saw coming. Before we dive into this incredible confrontation that had social media buzzing for weeks, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments because this story is absolutely wild. The studio lights are blazing as Gwen Stefani settles into the guest chair, her signature red lipstick perfectly applied and her blonde hair styled in that iconic high ponytail that made her famous decades ago. She's here to promote her latest venture, a new fashion collaboration, and everything seems perfectly normal as the show returns from commercial break. Welcome back to The View. I'm here with the incredibly talented Gwen Stefani. Joy Behar announces with her trademark New York directness. Now Gwen, you've been in the spotlight for over 20 years, and you've always been known for pushing boundaries, especially when it comes to fashion and cultural expression. Gwen nods graciously, flashing that $1 million smile that has graced countless magazine covers. Thank you for having me. Joy, I've always believed in staying true to yourself and expressing your individuality through art and fashion. That's interesting you say that. Joy continues, leaning forward slightly, because there's been some conversation lately about cultural appropriation in your past work, particularly with the Harajuku Girls era. Looking back, do you think there were moments where you crossed a line? The question hangs in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Gwen's smile falters for just a moment, but she quickly recovers. I think that everything I've done has come from a place of love and appreciation. For different cultures, I was inspired by Japanese street fashion and wanted to celebrate that. Joy isn't backing down. But celebration and appropriation can be two very different things, can't they? Some critics have said you essentially turned Japanese women into living accessories during that period. I don't think that's fair, Gwen responds, her voice taking on a slightly defensive edge. Those were real friendships I had with those women. They were artists in their own right. But were they given equal creative control, or were they basically your backup dancers dressed up in costumes? Joy presses, her journalist instincts kicking in. The other co-hosts exchange glances. Whoopi Goldberg tries to jump in with a softer approach. I think what Joy is trying to get at is that times have changed, and we're all more aware now of these sensitivities. Exactly, Gwen says, turning toward Whoopi gratefully. And I think growth is important. We all learn and evolve. But Joy isn't finished. The thing is, Gwen, you were already a grown woman when you made those choices. You were in your 30s, not some naive teenager. And even when people pointed out the problematic nature of it at the time, you didn't really listen, did you? Gwen's composure is starting to crack. I listened to my heart, and my heart was always in the right place. I don't think you understand the context of what I was trying to do artistically. I understand that you made a lot of money off of Japanese culture, while actual Japanese artists struggled for recognition in America. Joy fires back. That's a pretty clear context to me. The tension in the studio is palpable. Sunny Hostin attempts to mediate. I think we can acknowledge that intentions matter, but impact matters more. Gwen, have you ever directly apologized to the Asian community for any hurt that may have been caused? I don't feel like I need to apologize for celebrating culture, Gwen says, her voice rising slightly. Art is about inspiration and fusion. Every artist draws from different influences, but every artist doesn't dress up women like dolls and parade them around as exotic props. Joy counters immediately. There's a difference between inspiration and exploitation, and you seem unwilling to acknowledge that difference. Gwen's face flushes. You're putting words in my mouth and mischaracterizing everything I've done. This feels like an ambush. It's not an ambush, it's accountability. Joy responds without missing a beat. You came on a talk show, and we're talking. If you can't handle questions about your career choices, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews. The studio audience is completely silent, sensing they're witnessing something extraordinary unfold. Sarah N. tries to lighten the mood. Maybe we can talk about your new fashion line and how you're incorporating more inclusive practices now. But Gwen is clearly rattled. I think the problem here is that some people are determined to find offense where none was intended. I've always been supportive of diversity and inclusion in everything I do. Supporting diversity isn't the same as profiting off of other people's cultures while they remain marginalized. Joy shoots back. And frankly, your defensiveness right now is telling. A simple acknowledgement of growth would have gone a long way. I'm not being defensive, I'm being honest about my artistic vision, Gwen insists, her voice getting sharper. And I don't appreciate being lectured about culture by someone who clearly doesn't understand the music industry or the collaborative process. Joy's eyes flash at Gwen's dismissive comment about not understanding the music industry. Excuse me, I've been interviewing artists since before you were famous, sweetheart. And what I understand is when someone is trying to dodge responsibility for their actions, I'm not dodging anything. Gwen snaps back, her polished media training starting to crumble. I'm trying to explain my perspective to someone who seems determined to paint me as some kind of villain. Nobody's painting you as a villain, Whoopi interjects, trying to restore some balance. But Joy does have a point about accountability. Does she though? Gwen turns to face Whoopi directly. Because it feels like I'm being held to a standard that plenty of other artists aren't. Where was this energy when Madonna was doing her geisha phase? Where was it when countless male artists have done the exact same thing? Joy leans back in her chair with a knowing smile. Oh, so now we're playing the what about game. That's the classic deflection move right there. It's not deflection, it's pointing out hypocrisy. Gwen fires back, her voice getting louder. And frankly, I'm getting tired of being the target when there are real issues in the world that deserve this kind of attention. Real issues. Joy's voice takes on an incredulous tone. Cultural appropriation isn't a real issue. The marginalization of Asian voices in entertainment isn't real. Tell that to the Asian American performers who couldn't get record deals while you were making millions off their culture. Sunny Hostin sees an opportunity to jump in. Gwen, I think what might help here is if you could just acknowledge that your understanding has evolved since then. That's all anyone is asking for. But that's not all they're asking for. Gwen protests, gesturing toward Joy. She's asking me to admit to something I don't believe I did wrong. She wants me to say I exploited people, and I won't say that because it's not true. So the 4 Japanese women who followed you around on stage and rarely spoke weren't being exploited. Joy presses. They were equal partners in this artistic vision. They were paid professionals who made their own choices. Gwen responds defensively, and they were incredibly talented dancers and performers. Dancers and performers who were essentially costumes in your show. Joy counters. When did any of them get to speak? When did their individual personalities shine through? Or were they just there to make you look more interesting? Gwen's composure finally starts to crack completely. You know what, Joy? You're being incredibly disrespectful right now. You're reducing my friends to props and accusing me of racism. And I don't have to sit here and take this. Friends. Joy's voice drips with skepticism. These friends of yours, where are they now? Are you still in touch? Did they benefit long-term from their association with you? Or did they disappear when the Harajuku phase ended? The question hits like a sledgehammer. Gwen's face goes pale, and for a moment, she's speechless. The other co-hosts sense they're witnessing something explosive. That's not relevant to this conversation. Gwen stammers, clearly flustered, it's absolutely relevant. Joy pounces. Because if these were genuine friendships and collaborations, those relationships would have continued. But if they were employment arrangements where you paid people to be your living accessories, well, that tells a different story, doesn't it? Sarah N. attempts damage control. Maybe we should move on to discussing Gwen's current projects and how she's grown as an artist. No, let's not move on, Gwen says, her voice shaking with anger. Because I want Joy to explain to me how she thinks she knows more about my personal relationships than I do. I want her to tell me how she's qualified to judge friendships she knows nothing about. Joy doesn't flinch. I'm qualified because I have eyes and I can see patterns. I can see when someone is being defensive instead of reflective. And right now, you're proving every point your critics have made about your inability to listen to legitimate concerns. Legitimate concerns. Gwen's voice is getting shrill now. This is a hit job. This is exactly the kind of cancel culture nonsense that's ruining discourse in this country. Oh, now we're bringing out the cancel culture defense, Joy says with a laugh. The last resort of people who don't want to be held accountable for anything. Whoopi tries once more to intervene. Ladies, let's take a breath here. But Gwen is beyond taking breaths. You know what, Joy? You want to talk about accountability? Let's talk about your accountability. Let's talk about some of the things you've said on this show that have hurt people. Go ahead, Joy challenges, spreading her arms wide. I've apologized when I've been wrong. I've learned from my mistakes. Can you say the same? I don't make mistakes that require apologies because I don't set out to hurt people. Gwen shoots back. But impact matters more than intent. Sunny reminds her gently. Even if you didn't mean to cause harm, if harm was caused, doesn't that warrant some acknowledgement? Gwen whirls around to face Sunny. So now you're ganging up on me too. This is unbelievable. I came here to talk about fashion and creativity. And instead I'm being attacked by a panel of people who seem to have already made up their minds about me. Nobody's attacking you, Joy says calmly. We're having a conversation about your career choices. If you experience that as an attack, maybe that says something about how comfortable you are with those choices. Joy's calm demeanor in the face of Gwen's growing agitation only seems to infuriate the pop star more. Don't psychoanalyze me, Joy. You don't know me, and you certainly don't know my heart or my intentions. I know what I see. Joy responds evenly, and what I see is someone who built a career on borrowing from other cultures and now gets upset when people point that out. Borrowing. Gwen's voice cracks with indignation. Artists have always drawn inspiration from each other. That's how culture evolves. That's how music grows and changes. There's a difference between inspiration and appropriation, Sarah N. interjects carefully. And maybe the line wasn't as clear 20 years ago, but it's clearer now. Exactly my point, Gwen says, turning to Sarah desperately. The rules changed after the fact, and now I'm being retroactively judged by standards that didn't exist when I was creating that work. Joy shakes her head. The standards absolutely existed. Asian American activists were talking about this exact issue during your Harajuku era. You just chose not to listen because it was profitable not to listen. That is completely unfair. Gwen explodes. You're making assumptions about my motivations that are absolutely false. I never chose not to listen to anyone. Then why didn't you ever address these concerns when they were first raised? Joy presses, why did it take 20 years and a changing cultural landscape for you to even acknowledge that some people were hurt by your choices? Gwen looks around the table desperately, seeking support from the other hosts. Because I didn't think I had done anything wrong, and honestly, I still don't think I did anything wrong. I think people are looking for reasons to be offended. The studio audience gasps audibly at this statement. Whoopi closes her eyes and shakes her head slowly. People are looking for reasons to be offended. Joy repeats slowly. So the Asian American community, when they express hurt about being fetishized and commodified, they're just looking for reasons to be offended. That's not what I meant. Gwen backpedals quickly, realizing she's stepped in it. No, I think that's exactly what you meant. Joy continues relentlessly. And that attitude right there is exactly why you can't grow from this. You've decided that anyone who criticizes you is just a professional victim looking for something to complain about. Stop putting words in my mouth. Gwen shouts, her composure completely shattered now. You're twisting everything I say to fit your narrative. I'm not twisting anything. Joy responds calmly. I'm listening to your actual words. You just said people are looking for reasons to be offended when discussing cultural appropriation. That's dismissive, and honestly, it's pretty revealing. Sunny tries one last time to salvage the situation. Gwen, maybe this is an opportunity. To show growth, maybe you could acknowledge that your perspective has evolved. My perspective has evolved, Gwen says through gritted teeth, but I'm not going to sit here and let Joy Behar bully me into saying I'm a racist when I know that's not who I am. Nobody called you a racist, Joy points out. But your defensiveness is doing you no favors right now. My defensiveness, Gwen's voice reaches a fever pitch. I'm being defensive because I'm being attacked on national television by someone who clearly had an agenda coming into this interview. The only agenda here is having an honest conversation about your career. Joy responds, if you can't handle that level of scrutiny, maybe you shouldn't be a public figure. That's the final straw. Gwen stands up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. You know what, Joy? I don't have to sit here and take this abuse from you. This isn't journalism, this is a hit job, and I'm done. Gwen, please sit down. Whoopi pleads. Let's work through this. No, Gwen says, already reaching for her purse. I came here in good faith to talk about my work, and instead I got ambushed by someone who clearly has issues with me personally. I don't have issues with you personally. Joy calls after her. I have issues with public figures who refuse to acknowledge when they've caused harm. Gwen spins around, her face flushed with anger. I have never caused harm to anyone. Everything I've done has come from a place of love and appreciation. And if you can't see that, then that says more about you than it does about me. Love and appreciation don't negate impact. Joy fires back. And your refusal to see that is exactly the problem. The problem is people like you who make careers out of tearing down successful women. Gwen shouts, her media training completely abandoned now. You build yourself up by knocking other people down, and I won't be part of it. With that, she storms toward the exit, her heels clicking angrily against the studio floor. The cameras follow her as she pushes past a producer who tries to convince her to return. Gwen, we still have 8 minutes left in the segment, Sarah calls out weakly. But Gwen doesn't look back. She disappears behind the stage curtain, leaving the co-host sitting in stunned silence as the audience buzzes with excitement and shock. Joy turns to the camera with a slight shrug. Well, I guess that's one way to end an interview. When we come back, we'll be discussing the importance of accountability in the entertainment industry. The show cuts to commercial as producers scramble to figure out how to fill the remaining time, and social media explodes with clips of the confrontation that will be replayed and analyzed for weeks to come. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Do you believe Joy went too far, or was Gwen's reaction completely out of line? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more incredible celebrity stories that you won't believe actually happened.